Congratulations on the great success of the film. I mean, just worldwide, your work and the film in general have been getting so much praise, well deserved. So congratulations on all of the awards and nominations, including your ASC award nomination.
Thank you. Look, I'm just really pleased that our film got people into the theatre again too. You know, after Top Gun and then Us and Avatar, you know, people went back to the cinema, which is really great.
It's a different experience to see it on such a large screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what brought people out, and it's exciting to have that.
Good. Well, Baz said to really early on that he was only going to make this film if it was made for the cinema, that they guaranteed it was going to be on the cinema.
I mean, I'd love to, start at the beginning of the process by which you came onto this film.
Well, I have really been working with Baz for 20 years. I mean, we started on the Chanel No. 5 little short film. So I've done 2 of those with him, and Australia, and then this. So that was 20 years ago. So when he called me about this, it was very early, because he gets me on board early as possible and doing soft prep like 9 months before we went into full prep. And I was there for Austin's auditions and first workshops. And I was running around with my stills like a camera, looking at angles of him and looking at lensing on him. And as he was doing some of the performances, I was already starting to kind of discover things about the way he moves. And then I went into, doing my own research on, first of all, on the existing footage of Elvis that anyone can go online and see, and the concerts that like the 68 special, comeback special, NBC, and there's a documentary called That's the Way It Is, which is his first Vegas show. And then there was a stills photographer that followed Elvis in the 50s when he did the Rustwood concert, which is the one out on the baseball field where he sings Trouble. And so I had to study that reference because Baz wanted me to do what was called train spotting, which was to replicate exactly that footage. So I had to study the camera angles and the lenses and the lighting, of course, and then as well as that, there was the drama of the film, and also, we're making a cinematic story of his life. So there was those elements about the visual language that I had to start exploring, and I had to also represent the 3 periods of time to an audience, the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so to look at that and how we were going to do that visually and coherently, with the art department, with costume, makeup, hair, all visual effects, all those elements. So I had to study that, and it was good I had that time, and went really early into Panavision to talk to Dan Sasaki about lensing and storytelling with lenses, because that's the way that that's always my discussion with him, is we talk about storytelling and why we would look at different types of lenses. And we decided, I took Baz in as well, and we decided to go spherical for the first part of the film and then go anamorphic after, in the 70s when he goes to Vegas, because we felt that represented those periods to an audience. So that was a long answer to your question.
No, I mean, also that's so much great information. I'd love to ask more about, being a part of the casting process. Is that usual for you working with Baz Luhrmann, that you would be part of the casting process as well? Because it seems like a great opportunity to already be looking at performance and how it would be photographed.
Yeah. No, I'm normally not there that early.
Yeah.
But I was there, and Catherine Martin and Karen Murphy were there, the production designers, and the editorial team.
Wow.
So it was like we all are there right way from the beginning. And that means that we can all kind of start this conversation, basically. And I think, when you work with Baz, it's all about that collaboration. And he would always be we had a script at that stage. The script changed a little bit, but it always starts from story, you know, and him being very clear about the storytelling and the story he wanted to tell to an audience. And then we had meetings a lot where all the departments get together and we start bringing in the different elements of our research or our ideas. And then we test really early on, like as soon as we started pre-production and I decided that the lenses were the right choice, and they went through then another 3 iterations during testing before they were perfect. And we also decided early on to shoot on Alexa 65. And I remember us talking about maybe shooting on film at some point because a lot of the reference materials on film. But in the end, when we started testing, we realized that there were so many different looks that we had to incorporate and to match some of the archival footage that it was much better to start with Alexa 65 to give us, one, the scale at 65 mil, but also to shoot on digital gave us, you know, a chance to set up our LUTs on set and you know, we tested different LUTs and we had quite a few different LUTs for the different periods of time and the different locations, and that gave us a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. So I mean, color is a huge component to this. So, you know, you mentioned having lists that you were working on set. Do you do you know ballpark, like how many different looks did you have for the film?
Probably about 6.
Uh-huh.
But we, again, I mean, when we do tests with Baz, it's not just with any test, it's not just an actor standing in front of a grey card. It's always elements of the set, costume, hair and makeup, lighting ideas that I have that I'm bringing in replicating a lot of the period lighting and I rebuilt a lot of the period lights. Like we scoured the whole of Australia for old rock and roll lights because they were going to be in shot and they had to be working in camera. And also the integration of the LED lighting. I did a lot of kind of a crossover between getting the period lighting to do what it did, but then adding LED lighting because I had more control over it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, if you think about, like, for instance, NBC in the TV studio, that lighting is very harsh and hard Fresnel lighting. And, you know, in the original footage, there's like really dark shadows under his eyes and it's quite contrasty. I wanted to I think I kind of rode a fine line between matching, but also making a little bit more complementary. Like I wanted to see his eyes and I wanted it to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, that lighting, and a little bit more modern. And it's interesting because someone was asking me the other day that there's modern elements of this movie that kind of over the top of the archival and on top of the historical. So in my mind, always in that visual language was bringing those real images that exist and replicating them, and then also doing our own version of it. So we would, because for instance at Rustwood, you know, when he's singing Trouble, there would never have been a crane up the top spinning around and looking down on top of him and stuff like that. So I would, there's in the language, there's a modern kind of element that's on top of it. And then there's also the drama. There's always drama going on while he's singing. And so that to me was really important, that those elements fitted together seamlessly. So there was a harmony to the visuals that wouldn't kind of take you out of the film all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many inherent challenges to working with, you know, something that is multiple periods. You're recreating actual performances, very well-known material at being, you know, one of the biggest musicians of all time. What is something that you're most proud of being able to achieve with this film?
I think it was, you know, because I'd never shot a musical before. When I first, you know, was shooting anything, I was shooting commercials and music videos and small films. So I've shot concerts in the past, but they would have been more sort of documentary type situations. And so for me, I think the biggest challenge was that Vegas showroom, because we shot the whole film in Australia and we never shot in a theatre or a venue. We shot everything on stage. So we built everything from scratch. All those concert sequences we built. And that set was gigantic. And it went, from the backstage area with the big behind the big backdrop to the side of the stage where the dressing rooms were, onto the stage. And then we built a third of the audience in that room. And Baz wanted to shoot the first concert in one shot. So we took, it's not in the film like that, but in terms of how we covered it, we would start with him walking backstage, the side of the stage, and he tunes his guitar onto the stage and he sings the concert for 5 songs, I think it was, in a row. It was a 20-minute take. And I had 5 cameras for the whole of this sequence. And we didn't just do it once, we did it a few times from different angles, but each time we did it, we shot the whole concert. And that to me was the biggest challenge, because it was a gigantic lighting setup. And then we had to have, to replicate exactly the colors and the lighting changes that happened in the original footage and the camera angles. And so I had my team, my camera and grip department and lighting, learn the songs, and they learnt the choreography. And so we did a lot of dress rehearsals or on that stage from really early on with Austin. Choreography rehearsals, then dress rehearsals, so that my team knew exactly what it was doing. And because Austin is incredible and so perfect, he did the same thing every time.
Yeah.
So we knew his moves, and we knew when he was going to spin around. We knew when he was going to put his hand up, and then we'd have a light behind it. And also for him we started with like just little Artemis and viewfinders and stills cameras, and then we got into doing rehearsals with our cameras. And so that he knew where we were going to be as well. So that we were doing, I think I said before that the 3 camera languages in this movie is that the camera has to dance with Elvis, that we have to fly when he flies, and that when the drama's really heavy, we really slow down the moves, and we would be very elegant, and especially in emotional scenes, because we didn't want to be distracting with camera moves at that time. So that we were always conscious, and my team were always conscious of that camera language as well. So when we're on stage with him, we're dancing with him, and we would do the train spotting footage, and then we would do what Baz called riffing, which means that we would do some handheld, or we'd go on different angles that weren't in that footage, and kind of be a bit more, I suppose, a bit more in the language of the movie rather than replicating the documentary footage.
Having camera and lighting, kind of learn the choreography, doing this dance with Austin Butler, and working with 5 cameras at once, that's a lot of moving parts. Yeah, I mean, that's just very impressive. Now that you've done a musical, do you want to do another one?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I had a really great time, and so did my team. And you saw them bopping along in the background, like someone would be, one of the camera operators, Jason Elson or Jay Torter, my main 2 camera operators, would be bopping away on the wheels. And they because everybody was being in the moment, and in the moment was being at that concert and being part of the audience and in enjoying, like, because Austin was so incredible. It was like being at an Elvis concert. It was really special. And the other one, I think, the other challenge I think I had, I'll just go back for one sec, is I remember in pre-production we were talking about getting theatre lighting team in to light that set. And then the next day the gaffer and I went back to work together, and we both went, no, we can do it. And we did. We studied all the theatrical lighting setups, and we did a lot of research and a lot of testing, and we made it work ourselves. And then we had the Russwood concert, which is the one where he sings Trouble and he gets taken off stage by the police, was meant to be outside. And we were planning to shoot it outside, and we had big Musco lights and Wendy lights, you know, that we were going to have in the background. And it was the start of the raining season, and we had 400 extras. And I remember us all looking at each other and going, imagine on the first night if it rains like that, you know, that would be terrible. And the extras are jumping around in the mud, and it'd be awful. So we ended up putting it on stage. But for me, the challenge of that was the lighting, because the stage we're on is like a quarter of the size of what it would be in reality.
Yeah.
So I did some tests with maxi brutes and put them in the same shape as the lights that would have been in the stadium, which would have been Klieg lights or whatever in those days in the 50s. And even though they were smaller, I got them as far away as I could. And then I did tests with our lenses with atmosphere and also with depth of field to get them to look like they were further away. And then the VFX put like the stadium seating into the background of that. So we shot on a black stage. It was all black. And I was pretty happy with that, because I think you get that feeling that there is more distance when there wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, what does this nomination mean to you?
I can't tell you how thrilled I am. I was like, the first one that came was the ASC, which is very important to me. And I was in tears on the phone with happiness. I can't tell you, I was here on my own and ringing up my family. And then the BSC and the BAFTAs and when the Oscar nomination came in the morning at 5 a.m. I was still here by myself, and I was like running around in the lounge room in my pajamas, just saying yay to myself. Look, it's very special, and it does mean a lot to me to be nominated by my peers and other cinematographers. That really means a lot. And so it's exciting for me, and I'm enjoying the ride, and I'm just about to go to London tomorrow for the BAFTAs, and it's, you know, whatever happens, I'm really happy with what's happened so far.
It's very exciting to see, you know, a female cinematographer working at the caliber of your work, and yeah, you're just very inspiring.
Thank you. And look, I'm so keen for more women to get into the camera department. Like, I've made it my mission. I'm trying to get, you know, each film, more and more women into camera grip and electrics, and to be training and building up, you know, that passion that I had, and making other women realize its possibility. And because I still don't believe there's not as many women in the camera department as men. It's sort of a funny thing. And because I've been shooting for like a long time, over 25 years, that it's taken this long for, you know, for us to be recognized. And, you know, now I'm the third one to be nominated for an Oscar. It's great. It's getting better.
Yeah, I know so many women that are trying to make it in camera and in lighting. There's a lot of us.
There's a lot of us. That's good. There's getting more and more. It's really great. It's changing.
Yeah. So, you know, talking about inspiration, are there any, you know, of the other nominees whose work this year really inspired you creatively?
Oh, you know what? I think all of them. I mean, they're all very, very different films. And what's great is each time the nominations come up, there's a real camaraderie between us. Like, we all contact each other and say congratulations. And, you know, I sat with James Friend at the BSC Awards when and held his hand when they was calling out the nominations. But I'm inspired by all the work. Like, they're all very different but all equally amazing films. So I couldn't pick one. I just think that there's a lot of great work this year. Yeah,
there absolutely is. Well, wonderful. I mean, those are really the things that I wanted to ask you about. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I have to give credit to my crew, and I had a fantastic crew, all Australian. As I said, we shot everything in Australia, and between, having 5 cameras for the concerts and 4 cameras for the others, and a lot of the time 3, my team just worked really hard, and they're all fantastic, and so I just have to give credit to them for their support and their enthusiasm, and it was a really great experience.
Good. Yeah. No, it's wonderful that everyone was able to collaborate, to such a high level together, but also have a good time doing it.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, because it wasn't easy, but the thing is, working with Baz, we always use our pre-production really, thoughtfully, and we do test, and we test things a lot, so that when we get to set, because the other thing was on this movie, that a lot of the sets were separate, some were on backlots and some were interior on stage, and there was always a transition between them. So those things I had to work out really early on, and that came from testing a crane move and making sure that would link with this one from Beale Street to the interior of Club Handy for that sequence where Elvis comes into town. And so things like that, I think what I would say is that I think we used really well, and it was why the film works in that way and flows in that way, because of the prep.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really special to have that kind of prep. It's just blowing me away to think about you and production design and editorial and everyone being there for like casting for this. That's like unheard of. Yeah,
I know, but it's because Baz wants everybody involved really early on, and he's a great collaborator in that way. Is that he has a very strong vision, but he gives you the tools to bring your best to the project, and have the time to do it properly, and to test your ideas, and and to, like I was saying, with our testing, we always tested our ideas together, so that the color of the 50s was a very, very restricted color palette, and we made sure that, because I had quite a strong LUT on for that as well, so that was all kind of worked out before, so that it was in harmony and there was nothing fighting against each other.
Yeah, which, I mean, it makes sense. That would have to be necessary to have such a strong, clear aesthetic, which Baz's films always have.
So no, it's always a dream to work with him.
Yeah.